All right, so this is inside your normal labs workshop. We're going to be talking about the 5 key markers that will change the game when it comes to your health concern and overcoming them. By the end of this time together, we're going to learn why these 5 markers, what they reveal, and how it impacts your health. So if you are live with me, welcome. If you have your blood work, great. If you don't, that's okay. Just make some notes. You can also, I'm going to do a PowerPoint today so you can, do a quick screenshot if you like as well. So let's go ahead and jump right in, you guys, okay? So the biggest question I get asked by a lot of people is, what lab should I have my doctor order for me? And I think you have to be a little bit pushy with this because they tend to be very conservative and they don't want to order labs for some reason, but everybody should have a baseline of their labs. So you want to have your CBC with differential. Always have them do the differential. That's the most important part. Then you want to have them do the lipid panel, which is your triglycerides and cholesterol, HDLs, that sort of thing. Then you have a metabolic panel. A comprehensive metabolic panel is what they call it. Then you also want to add in your thyroid panel. When they do the thyroid panel, you want them to include other markers than just TSH. Have them include free T4, free T3, reverse T3, TPO, and TG antibodies, as well as TSH. Then the next thing is in components. There's an inflammatory marker, which is really good to have. It's HSCPR. That's an inflammatory marker. The next marker that is probably as important as the CBC with differential, that is your vitamin D. Everybody should be testing their vitamin D levels because people are chronically low. And it is a problem. Blood sugar components such as blood glucose and A1C. If you're going to order hormones, have them order the whole panel, not just testosterone or not just estrogen. You have to order the whole panel. And that's what I would recommend that you have your doctor order. And why you want this is because these are pieces to a puzzle. That's why it just drives me crazy when doctors don't order all the pieces to the puzzle. All you get is little snippets here and there. So the more pieces to the puzzle you have, the better. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to teach you guys how to put that puzzle together. Not only are we going to talk about the 5 key markers, we're going to talk about what's hidden inside of those 5 markers and what is the step-by-step process to heal. So first thing first, we need to do a little bit of housekeeping. Let's talk about ranges. So when you go to your doctor and you get your blood drawn and you're not feeling very well, and then the blood labs come back and everything's normal and they say, okay, you're fine, normal labs. There's a reason for that. What we want to do is we're going to condense that range into what's called a functional range. So that we're taking that very large range or wide range and we're condensing it into a narrower, smaller range. And I have to give credit where credit is due. And let me go ahead and go into my PowerPoint. Okay, we already blew by this. Dr. Datis Karazian, he is the individual that did all the research. He and his team about 30 years ago. He's got about, I don't know how many, 9 trillion degrees after his name. And somebody had to do the research and come up with the ranges. However, I've tweaked the ones that we're going to go over today based upon my experience. So I'm going to show you guys some examples as well. We're going to go over the numbers first, go over those 5 markers. And then once we've done that, we'll go over some examples. That way you can see how that makes sense. Okay. And again, we're looking at this from, this is California, this is New York. Go find a restaurant, your favorite restaurant. Well, good luck. That is a very wide range. So we've taken that and we've condensed it down into this functional medicine model. And we had to change that model because people just were not getting well and people are sick. So you have to go with that smaller range. And then the last bit of housekeeping that I want to go over is I do not diagnose from this information. I'm not going to help teach you how to diagnose. How we look at these ranges is that we want to just have that. Why I feel so strongly about this is because this system has failed, right? So the chances are that you're on this call and it's failed you. So we're going to look at these different ranges. We're not going to diagnose we're just not even going to really look at symptoms, though I will go over symptoms, because when you have a diagnosis and you have symptoms that are under that diagnosis, but oftentimes people have symptoms that fall outside of that diagnosis, that becomes a problem for the medical model because they don't then know how to treat it. They don't know what kind of drugs to give you. They don't know what treatment options are. So what we want to do is we want to stop searching for a diagnosis. We want to flip our minds and to start searching for what is causing your body to go south. The way we're going to read this blood work is how to help you as a person and how to help you walk from being unhealthy to healthy. That is really the bottom line. So it doesn't matter what the diagnosis is at that point. If chronic fatigue is part of your life, if you're tired of hearing it's all in your head, or take a different medication, or you're not taking enough medication, I mean, we could go on and on and on and talk about that. But what we really want to do is read these labs in a way that help you. So we're not reading it to get to that diagnosis, just to be very clear. We're reading it to get you from healthy, unhealthy to healthy. Okay? So let's get going. The first lab that we want to look at is the CBC with differential. All right, so find the white blood cell count. It's generally at the top of the page. It's the top marker, white blood cell count. And the functional range for that is between 5 and 8. All right, so if you're outside of that range, then that's what we're going to go over today, because this little range here, it's not a perfect range. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop down to the bottom of the page. Generally speaking, that's where it's at. You're going to pass the red blood cell, the mean corpuscular volume, and the platelets, all of that portion. And then we're going to go down into the differential portion of the page. If you don't have that, next time you go get your blood drawn, definitely ask for them to give you a differential along with this. But if you're sitting at 4.1 or 9.7, if you're outside of this range, then your body is fighting the biggest issue that I see in health now, and that is called an infection. This is not the kind of infection where you're going to be able to run to your doctor and say, I've got this infection. Let's, take antibiotics for it. No. Or run a test for it. No, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. And thank goodness you do not want to come up with a positive test for any kind of infection, you know, whether it's E. coli or C. diff or H. pylori, whatever it is, the test that actually, you know, that would actually come back positive would be miserable. These type of infections are low grade. They're present in their body and they are damaging your body just enough to make your life miserable. So what do these infections look like? Generally speaking, GI problems is a huge factor with these infections. Constipation, diarrhea, excessive gas, heartburn, reflux, bloating, indigestion. So these are the types of issues that I come across all the time when I see these infections, low-grade infections. They also, joint pain, muscle pain. So autoimmune is the third thing. So diabetes, Hashimoto's, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's. These are all very common diagnoses that people have when they have these low-grade infections. So the first one we're going to talk about is neutrophils. So you had your white blood cell count at the very top, and then you're going to drop down to neutrophils. Okay, in the neutrophils, you should be seeing a percentage. If you're not seeing a percentage, if it's an absolute value, then you have to convert it into a percentage. But the neutrophils should be, the magic number is 60%. Neutrophils are also called granulocytes, okay? And this means that you have a low-grade bacterial or fungal infection. The magic number there is 60%. Chances are you might have another infection of a different type, but especially if it's a very, very high marker. But what you really need to know is that in the natural world, these treatments take care of everything. They tackle it all. It's not like an antibiotic where it goes in and just targets one type of bacteria, like a gram-positive or a staph or a, gram-negative. The type of supplements we use goes in and tackles them all. So we're only going to pay attention to the high numbers. So if it's higher than 60%, that's what you want to be looking at. And again, these are related to GI problems, joint pain, chronic fatigue, and autoimmune diseases. The next slide, or the next marker, is lymphocytes. Lymphocytes, the magic number is 30%. So if you're seeing blood work with a number of higher than 30%, then we're looking at some sort of virus. I don't care what kind of virus it is, because the natural treatment will take care of all of those and make those viruses dormant. So we want to see 30% there. And the biggest problem that I see with virus is chronic pain, joint pain, rheumatoid arthritis, regular. They tell you, oh, you have arthritis, and you're like, well, I'm only 35 years old. It's another problem. It's not because of your age. Fibromyalgia is another big one. So when you're looking at those two numbers, the neutrophils are at 60% and the lymphocytes are at 30%. This is a 2-to-1 ratio. So that is good. If this goes to a 1-to-1 ratio, this is neutrophils, this is lymphocytes, this means that this is that pattern that I was talking about. It's that autoimmune flare with a 1-to-1 ratio. Usually, research has shown that 95% of autoimmune disease is triggered by this type of viruses. Diabetes, when there's a viral component, it attacks the pancreas. In Hashimoto's, the virus would attack the thyroid. Okay. So in this case, we're looking at a dominant viral component because the neutrophils is less than 60% and the lymphocytes are greater than 30%. It's a break in the pattern. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning that person is having autoimmune flares. The next slide is monocytes. 7% is the magic number with monocytes. If you have anything higher than 7%, then you're looking at a viral component. Generally speaking, with monocytes, when it's over 7%, you would look at having Epstein-Barr or mononucleosis. This is something that they can test for. If your monocytes are above 7%, these are the most prevalent tests that are done. But it's not necessarily all the time. These are low-grade viruses. And when you have these low-grade viruses, you're not going to have the energy to do things. It leads to anxiety and depression. It's because your body, it's busy fighting these low-grade infections, and it leaves you, you're very, very easy to trigger into your anxiety. So monocyte count, the magic number is 7%, and that leads to viral infection. So we've covered 3 of the markers. Let's keep going. The next marker is eosinophils. Eosinophils are, the magic number is 3%. Anything higher than 3%, you are looking at food sensitivities or parasitic infections. So eosinophils and the next one, which are basophils, which is at 1%. If you're higher there, these two, what I look at is if somebody has higher markers in this, we look at food sensitivities and allergies first. So by the time somebody's hit my door, we pretty much have ruled out these things. They've done allergy testing or elimination diets. They're usually eating, broccoli and chicken and rice. So when I see a high eosinophil or basophil, and they've already gone through their house, torn out all of the environmental toxins, they're on a diet that's very, very clean, then we have to look at parasites. And that is okay. Parasites, we just treat them the same way. These products that we use, they go in and they pull them out and they kill them and boom, gone. So what we want to do now is we want to, because some of you might have the question, well, I have some high numbers, I have some low numbers. Why would I do that? Why would it look like that? So these are numbers, and they're always very reliable. If you have a neutrophil that is supposed to be at 60%, a lymphocyte at 30%, a monocyte at 7%, an eosinophil at 3%, and a basophil at 1%, that all adds up to 100%. Now, those numbers themselves don't add up to 100%, but what is in your labs will add up to 100% because it has the decimals. So in your labs, those will add up to 100%. And it's always, always, always if your marker is high, if you have one elevated marker, that's going to throw everything else off. It's going to cause the other markers to be depressed, right? So if you're looking, say, at a neutrophil of 88%, which is what I saw in a young lady who came into my practice a couple of years ago, she had chronic fatigue and she also had a frozen shoulder. So she woke up one morning. She's a young mom. She had a baby and a 3-year-old. She woke up one morning with a frozen shoulder. And so she went to her doctor. They gave her injections. She went to physical therapy. She did massage therapy. She went to a couple of chiropractors. So she did a lot of different physical medicine on the shoulder because that it was frozen and they thought that's what the problem was. But it just wasn't working. So when she came to see me, I said, okay, in this time period that you've been dealing with the frozen shoulder, do you have any blood work that was done? And they had done blood work, thankfully. And we pulled the blood work and she had a neutrophil of 88%. So I walked her through the treatment steps that I'm going to teach you in just a few minutes. And sure enough, her shoulder pain disappeared. Not just her shoulder pain, but she also had other joint pain and she had more energy. So besides having more energy, her joint pain going away, her husband messages me and says, hey, her mood swings are not crazy anymore. She's got like all this energy and I feel like I've got my wife back. So you have to understand when you're feeling so crappy and then you start to feel better and those infections go away, it's just, you just feel so much better. And what is tragic is I would bet money that 90% of the people who have these chronic health issues, it is due to some type of low-grade infection. And it might not just be one infection, but many. So why I say that is because when you have that really high marker and it's very elevated, then the other markers have to be suppressed. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a different infection. So the point is, when you have a very high marker, that is the dominant infection. We don't really look at the low percentages. So if you're looking at your markers, just make a note or circle that dominant infection. Okay. So let's get into the next thing, which is a 60-year-old male with chronic fatigue and low testosterone. So you can see here he has neutrophils of 42.1 and lymphocytes of 41.6. So he had these two major complaints. And I'm not going to look at this from a perspective of treating his chronic fatigue or treating his low T. I'm looking at the puzzle pieces that I see here and taking those pieces and putting them together and getting him from being unhealthy to healthy. So remember what we talked about earlier is we want a 2-to-1 ratio. This ideally should be 60. This ideally should be 30. That 2-to-1 ratio. And what you're seeing here is that 1-to-1 ratio. So what we're looking at there is that pattern, that autoimmune pattern with a viral component here. This is the viral component because the lymphocytes are high. But also take a look down here at his eosinophils, 9.4. That's high, 3 times what it should be. And I did a history on this fellow, so I can tell you that he eats very, very clean. He removed all the environmental toxins out of his home. So we're looking at parasitic infection at this point. So out of his markers, his 5 markers, what we've been able to determine is that he has a viral component with autoimmune flares, and he also has a parasitic infection as well. All right. So what do we do with this? It's really pretty simple. After many years and figuring out how to map this plan out for this guy, and he's a new client of mine, so he is going on a 90-day protocol that will support the cells. So the first month, we want to support the cells. We want to support the systems of the body. And we also want to open up the elimination pathways. Because when we start to kill stuff, we want things to move through the body very easily. And we have to support the cells in the first month because honestly, people just are so depleted, they don't have the energy to heal. So the second month, we go in and we destroy those infections. Doesn't matter what kind of infection it is. It can be bacterial, viral, parasitic, fungal, doesn't matter. The products that we use goes in and it tackles what is there. And then the third month, we go in and we optimize, we replenish, we give the body what it needs to heal. We give the body and the organs, the tissues, the glands, the systems of the body, the microbiome. We replenish all of that so that we don't have this problem reoccurring. Okay, because we really don't want that to happen. All righty. The next one is a very, very sweet girl. One of my favorite patients. She and her husband both. When we started working together, she was spending like $500 a month in supplements. I'm not kidding. And on top of that, so she was taking, I don't know, 20 supplements a day. And on top of that, she was taking like 7 different pharmaceuticals. So she totally blew my mind. She was only 27 years old. And actually her mother contacted me first because she was newly married and their marriage was in shambles because of her biggest struggle was her health, and it was really impacting her marriage. So I said, okay, what blood work do you have? And fortunately, she had quite a bit. She had 3 different blood works here. So her neutrophils, as you can see, were at 47, 61.6, and 60.4. She has 3 different labs. 2 of those labs look good. Then we have the lymphocytes at 43, 32.2, and 30.4. Her monocytes are at 6, 4.2, and 6.2. Eosinophils are at 3, 1.4, 2.8. Basophils 1.4 and 0.2. But look at her first lab here. What are we seeing? We're seeing that 1-to-1 ratio. If I had only gotten these 2 labs, then I would have been going, girl, I don't know what's the matter with you because these look pretty darn good. But because we have this lab here, we can see that there is a viral component with the lymphocytes being high, and it's progressed to the point that she's having these AI flares. And what I mean by that is that the body is attacking an organ or a gland in your body, and what it attacks is based on your genetics. So how do we treat? We had her on a 6-month program at this point. I would put her on that 3-month protocol. So we want to, again, go in, support the system, support the cells, support the systems of the body, purify. We want to go in and destroy those infections. And then we want to replenish all those cells so that you're feeling great. And believe me, you're feeling great. This next lady, she came in with, oh, before I go on, the other girl, her husband was sick too. He had GI complaints and he also had anxiety and mood swings. So he called up and said, you know, you did such a great job with her. Take a look at my blood work. And I'm like, okay, fine. And he had been living in South America for like 2 years. And when he had low-grade infections as well. So we put him through a program. His GI tract is running smoothly now. His anxiety and mood swings, those have evaporated. So they're doing great. Just in case you guys were wondering, they're still together and doing great. So this is a 39-year-old female with multiple sclerosis. She has 4 teenage boys. And I think I had alluded to that commercial on television. Get this injection and your MS flares will go away. Okay, well, this lady was doing that. And she didn't want to continue having injections, monthly injections, because they were causing her to be bedridden for 3 days. So not only did she have the symptoms and everything of multiple sclerosis, but she had this treatment protocol where she would go in, get these injections monthly. She was out of commission for 3 days. On top of that, she had these 4 teenage boys. So when she hit my door, she was like, please, I need help. We ordered her blood work, and fortunately she had, 5 different panels. So let's take a look at that. Her neutrophils were 48.4, 60.3, 41.2, 38.1, and 40. Her lymphocytes are 44.4, 34.4, 39.2, 36.1, and 34. So I think you guys can see a pattern going on here. And that's what it is. It's that pattern. She definitely has the AI pattern with the flares, the viral flares. And she also, if you look down just a little bit further, her lymphocytes look good, but she has these eosinophils that are astronomical, quite honestly. And this is a lady who has gone into her home, did a mold remediation, changed her diet, stopped eating sugar, is on a non-inflammatory diet. So she's done a lot because she has MS and she has to figure out what was going on with her. I mean, she thought she was going crazy, but she continued to have those flares. And this marker here, this parasitic marker, is one of the problems, along with her neutrophil or her lymphocyte count, which is this viral flare. So her treatment program was, I'm going to say 12 months, because she was pretty sick. Again, I would put her through the new 90-day program with the supporting the system, going in and killing those infections, and then replenishing everything. And what is very cool is we have one of her sons. He came in as well. He was falling asleep in class, and his teachers called his mother and said, hey, your kid's great. We love him. He's an excellent student, but he's falling asleep in class. What is going on? And I said, okay, let's run his blood work, see what's happening. So boom, what comes back is he's got the 14 on monocytes, which is very high. In fact, I called her up and I said, look, call the lab, see if his blood is at the lab, and see if they can run an Epstein-Barr virus test. And fortunately, they still had his blood and the test came back positive. So when you have mono, you got to keep your eyes on it. Also, just so you guys know, when you have mono or Epstein-Barr virus like that, that virus stays in your body. it will only be dormant or active. You cannot get rid of it. It's there. But we treated him just like the others. We put him on the support the system. We supported his system for the first month. Then we went in and killed we went in and made the virus dormant and then revamped the system. He and his mother both are on vitamin D at this point. They don't really need any other supplementation. They take 10,000 IUs of vitamin D, and that keeps their immune system fueled, and it keeps his dormant. If she literally feels it when she does not take her vitamin D. I mean, like by the next day or two, she's like, okay, yeah, I forgot to take my vitamin D, or I forgot to order vitamin D. I need it. I'm like, okay, fine. Take your vitamin D. That's what's holding your symptoms at bay. Okay, you guys. So what I'm going to talk about today is the 90-day whole body healing program. And that's the program that is just having amazing, amazing results. It is a program where we ship the products directly to your door. All those products that will go in and support your system for the first month. Then in the second month, it goes in and destroys those infections, no matter what type of infection it is. It can be parasitic, fungal, viral, or bacterial. If you've had any one of those markers that we talked about earlier that were elevated, then this is the program for you, because this will handle it for you. Everything you need to be successful is sent straight to your door. It comes in a box, which is very cool, because then you're not having to open a million bottles of vitamins. So each month has a box, and in that box are packets. And in those packets, you have your AM and your PM packet. Okay, you also get a patient guide. In the patient guide, it tells you what you're taking, when to take it, why you're taking it. It also goes over questions and answers. There's a pre-questionnaire that you do the questionnaire before you start, and then you do the same questionnaire after you finish. That way you can see how much progress you've made and how much better, how many of those symptoms have dropped away. We also have a community Facebook group, because you are going to have questions. We're doing this in a Facebook group because that allows me to be able to answer questions, and it also allows me to be able to teach you different things. So wouldn't it be cool if I could go in and teach you the lipid panel or teach you the thyroid panel? That with this group, I'm able to go in and do that. So you can answer questions, you can share your wins, we can learn more. It's just a great, great way to support you and to support you in your healing journey. And because you need support, I don't want you to feel like when you're done with this 90-day program that I'm going to kick you out of that group. No, you are in that group until the group doesn't, exist anymore. So if you have a question in, 6 months from now, then you can just go into the Facebook group and ask the question. No problem. I want you to have the support that you need to make this successful. So my question is, are you ready to start feeling better? Okay. Who is ready to start feeling better? Who wants to be my next success story? That's a good one. Because this program is for anybody who is sick of being sick. They're tired of, they're just tired and they want a fast change. You're going to feel amazing in as little as 90 days. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have a bit more mental clarity. You'll be able to sleep better. You'll be more excited about life because you're going to love how you feel and you're going to love the new version of you. I broke this down into two different payment options. So you can save $300 with a one-time payment of only $1,800. I set this price point so everyone can join and experience better health in just 90 days. And I'm giving you the best price that I can give you that allows for this. I don't want you guys having to take afternoon naps and drink coffee or drink energy drinks just to get through the day. All right, I'm offering this at a price point that allows you to be your ultimate best. But for those of you that find $1,800 might be a challenge, then I'm also offering 3 payments of $700. So you would want to go to HBH for whole body healing, precise blood analysis. And at the very bottom of the page, you would find my Calendly link. We can hop on and have a discovery call if you have any more questions to ask me, or if you want to work out some sort of a payment, make an appointment. I just don't want money to be a factor for you to get on board with this program. This is so easy, everyone can afford it. So if you have any questions, I'm going to be here for the next like 20 minutes or so, or you can jump onto that Calendly page and schedule there at the bottom of the page. So let's get going. Okay, you guys, and thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Let me pop back over here. Okay, yeah. Thanks.